This is Face to Face with myself, John Hammond, and today I'm with Senator Drew Springer, who's the elected state senator for District 30 here in Texas. Drew, welcome to the program and thanks for joining us.
Hey John, it's great to be with you today.
Well, thank you. First question, let's get it straight out of the way. With the reorganisation, with the redistricting, what cities do you now represent?
You know, I live in Munster, but I also represent from Sherman-Denison to Wichita Falls. I represent down to Parker County and Weatherford, back up through Denton. Then now I have Frisco, Louisville, Little Elm, and the Colony, and tons of great little small towns all in between.
Okay. So geographically, that must mean there's a lot of movement for yourself if you're going to get around to these various cities and towns over these various counties?
There is. There's 11 counties that I represent, probably about 9,000 square miles. So yeah, traveling around, hour and a half to the outer points. But yeah, you know when you run for these offices, you're going to be spending time in the car looking at the windshield.
Absolutely. Okay, now how long have you actually lived in the district?
You know, I've really lived in the district almost my entire life. You know, I grew up in Weatherford, graduated from Weatherford High School, went to University of North Texas in Denton, and I represent Denton now as part of that as well. You know, and now being in Munster. We took about 15 years, was pursuing a career and was in Dallas for a little bit, but you know, we were blessed to be able to come back to Munster about 20 years ago.
Excellent. So you said we come back, so let's hear a little bit about your family. You know, tell us about your family, what you do when you're not in politics.
Sure. You know, I've got my wife Lydia, 31 years. We actually met in Munster at the big German fest they have once a year, and we have 3 fantastic kids. They're all now grown, out of high school, out of college even, and so the last one just got out of college. All of them out there working, so ages 22 to 28. But you know, the best addition, and as you know, everybody says, if I could have had grandkids first, I would have. And so, you know, we also have our first grandson, and so Sutton is 2 years old, and he actually lives in Munster. So we're really blessed to get to spend time and play with him and see him grow.
There's something special about grandchildren, isn't there?
There definitely is. Yeah.
Now, before you moved into politics, you were, of course, in business, and I believe you specialised in accountancy. Is that correct?
I started life as an accountant, accounting major, worked for a railroad company for 15 years, sort of moved from the accounting side of it, used that obviously as my backdrop, but then started running companies for them. So I ran about 3 companies, had about 1,000 people working for me from there. But I had the opportunity, after we'd moved back to Munster, to go back to work with my father and join the family business. And so work in financial services. You know, and so get the joys of doing that in the next career. You know, but one of the things that makes Texas different, especially Texas politics, different from U.S. politics, is the fact that we don't really get paid. We get $600 a month. So we have to have a full-time job. So when you say you left business, no, we're still supposed to be doing business, as my father reminds me that he's like, can you show up at the office a little more often to work? And so we do have that going on. And so it becomes a juggling act. You have to juggle your family, your business, as well as representing your constituents.
Okay. So just to clarify here, it wasn't finance that motivated you to go into politics, was it?
No, it was definitely not that.
Okay. So what did motivate you to go into politics?
You know, it was really my family upbringing. Both my grandfather and father instilled that, you know, giving back to the community. They were both on city councils in Weatherford. And so that was really sort of what got me into caring about politics and policy and doing that. And so I was at a spot in my life 10 years ago when I first ran in 2012 for the Texas House that says, you know, God has put me in a place where I can, you know, take time off, where I'm not tied to a time clock or those, and be able to do that. And I was passionate about policy issues and, you know, really wanting to, but my overall reaching goal was to make sure Texas continued to be the land of opportunities. That it was for me, was for my father, for my grandfather. You know, whether you wanted to go work for somebody or you wanted to be in your own business. And I wanted that for my kids, and that's why I jumped in. Now I keep doing it because I want it for my grandson.
Yeah, absolutely. So, brief description, please, of how you moved into politics, because you were, in fact, a state representative for, what, 8 years?
Yeah, it was for 8 years. And so in 2012, we had an opening, and it really came in right after redistricting. We do it every 10 years with the census. So, I ran for that. Thought that probably I would do my time in the legislature as a state representative. The gentleman who was the senator before me had an opportunity to run for Congress, and he was successful in running for a special election for Congress, and that was Senator Pat Fallon. And so when Pat went to Congress, it made an opening, and the way the district was, I'm sitting there looking at it, it says, I grew up in Weatherford, I live here, I grew up or went to college at UNT in Denton. I spent a lot of time over in the Sherman-Denison area as well, and so it was a natural fit for me. And then the interesting one was I'm the first person that we know of in history that went from a bigger geographic House district, I represented 22 counties, 25,000 square miles, to a Senate district. There was 160,000 people in the House district, to move into the 14 county original Senate district that had 1 million people in it.
Wow, that's significant, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Very significant. Okay, so just taking the fact that you were just elected in 2021 into the Senate, and yet you're quite senior in the Senate. I understand that you were considered to be a senior senator. Can you explain that?
Yeah, and it really is because, I came in on that special. I was the 29th in seniority, but we had a lot of turnover this year with people taking retirements. And so I'm going to move up into 23rd, probably may very well be a chairman in my second term in the Senate. But it's really sort of that House training in the 8 years that comes over of understanding the policies that we face, whether it's healthcare, education, transportation, infrastructure, safety and security. It's really sort of that knowledge base that you're not there sort of learning your first 2 to 4 years of really what a state government really do. And so it's being able to hit the ground running. The lieutenant governor saw fit to make me a vice chairman in my first term in the Senate. And so, that was a big honor and a lot of responsibility that comes with that.
Excellent. We're going to take a quick break now, but don't go away. We'll be back with Senator Drew Springer after this break. Welcome back to Face to Face with myself, John Hammond. I'm with Senator Drew Springer. Senator, thanks very much for the insight you've given us into your family life and into your path into politics. Could we just have a look at the policies that you support or don't support right now? Obviously, you're well-spoken and it's accepted you're 100% pro-lifer. Where do you stand on the other key issues for Texas right now?
I've always been a firm supporter of the Second Amendment. I believe that is our right through the Constitution, and we need to do everything we possibly can to protect that. Beyond that, it really starts moving into what are we doing right for the future of Texas? In an education standpoint, one of the things I was really excited about supporting when I first got in was Texas was everybody's going to college, and we didn't teach anything else. But we know that there's trades and certifications and military readiness, and so we push those, and so it lets every child go the direction that they want to go, rather than us sort of saying, if you don't go this way, then you're a failure. And so, working at that on a school education standpoint. Economic development, and a true passion for rural economic development as well. So many times, we see so much come to sort of the Dallas to Houston to San Antonio triangle area, and we miss other parts of the state. And so we need to make sure the policies we're setting benefits everybody from there. I've always said one of the best things that takes care of an awful lot of problems is opportunities. So as long as you have an opportunity for a good job and people are having good jobs, a lot of the other things take care of themselves. Right. And a lot of the issues that get on the news that everybody wants to talk about, but it can be the things like transportation, making sure that we have broadband throughout, Texas. I call it the electrification of the 21st century. Everybody now takes for granted we have electricity, but broadband has become such an integral part of what we do as a society. And so I try to champion those items as well as we go forward. And really, it sort of all gets back into, I want to make sure that Texas is the place for my grandson to be able to achieve whatever his dreams are, whatever he wants to do. Whether he wants to be in law enforcement, whether he wants to run a company, anything in between there that fits him. If he wants to be a farmer or a rancher, we'll give him that chance to be as successful as he wants to be. And so, those are a lot of the policy deals I like to work on.
So are there any policies that you have to work on which you're maybe not so keen that you do have to work on?
I definitely do. And I'm really glad for this one part is I think we have too many lawyers in the legislature, but thank goodness on a lot of the legal issues, we have folks that are there dealing with that. I haven't spent as much time in the healthcare aspect of things. In fact, this session, one of the things I'm working more on is our mental health problems that we have really as a country, not just Texas, to be able to address those. Not having a physician's medical background or the lawyers, I tend to leave those to the experts, and I try to focus on, really where my expertise is. And really it's looking at business, it's looking at our tax structure, it's looking at our budget and our fiscal responsibilities and conservativeness inside of those areas.
Because you have got a unique position here with your business background, your accounting background. There's a cost to everything, and somewhere that cost has got to be met. And I presume, I'm right in saying, that that cost has to be met usually by the people out there, by the citizens.
The taxpayers have to pay for everything we do. There is a finite pool of money, and I think there's an awful lot of ask. This session we're going to find out with a budget surplus, there's going to be a whole lot of people asking us to spend that on themselves or their projects or what they're looking for. I know a lot of what we want to do this session is be able to give property tax relief, give those tax dollars back to the taxpayers from that perspective. But as I said with mental health, we have things we need to take care of. We need to spend money there. We need to spend money on school safety. We need our kids to be safe when they're at school. And so we will spend money to continue to address to make sure our kids are safe.
Okay, so you mentioned school safety. So presumably we're talking about protection, we're talking about gun law. What's your position?
Look, I want every Texan to be safe, every Texas kid to be safe. We put things in place in 2019 that we don't think in Uvalde were necessarily fully executed. So we know that those need to be addressed, and we're doing audits and things from that standpoint. We know we're going to spend dollars to make sure that we have proper locks. We're looking at spending money for ballistic shields to be able to go through. But clearly, this young man was troubled, from a mental health perspective. And we've got to be able to identify and catch these kids before something like this happens. But we also at the same time have to realize school safety is bigger than just the gun issue. It can be where do kids stand when they're waiting for pickup. We've seen people to do evil will do it with a truck mowing over crowds. So we have to think outside the box. We've got to think about every possibility to make sure we keep kids safe.
Senator, would you say that you've got a political goal or something that you're going to be progressing actively, maybe even tenaciously, something that you want to achieve?
On a personal level, I'm ecstatic to be in the Texas Senate. The House was fantastic. I would have been happy if I'd have stopped there. I think that's where politically I see my time just staying in the legislature. I've had a few people, I think they might have been trying to flatter me to get me to run for Congress, but I'm ecstatic to be there. But from a policy perspective, one thing that I really want to do this next session is trying to make sure that the Texas Miracle continues to go, that we have those economic opportunities. So I'm doing a lot of things to continue that. We had them in last session. Some things got sunsetted, programs ended. They need to be cleaned up and fixed. But we have 1,000 people a day moving to Texas. A lot of those are because of the things that are being done in other states incorrectly. And so making sure we don't follow those policies that haven't worked in California and New York.
Now, one thing which is very important to viewers of any TV network is how important their say is. What would you say to people that maybe feel disillusioned or their opinion doesn't matter, or there's nothing that they can do to help affect change?
No, I mean, my answer to that is absolutely your opinion matters. We may not take the same approach. I may choose to disagree with you, but I want to hear from you. Sometimes some of the policies we pass are changed because, okay, I didn't think about that. It may still pass something that's pro-gun that you may disagree with, but I may say, you have some safety precautions that we need to make sure are in there. And so we look at those. There's a lot of things that we don't do. I mean, I bring my background, but I've been blessed to have a family that hasn't suffered through mental health crisis. So hearing from constituents that share their input and maybe how we need to address that. It could be as simple as, I've tried to protest my property taxes in my appraisal. How did that process go for you? Because it may be different in Parker County than it is in Cook County. And so we need to hear from you on that so we can figure out what changes need to be made. But I can tell you, the frustrating thing I think sometimes for us is, we'll do a town hall and we'll have 15, 20 people show up. And we're wanting feedback from them. And we're there to answer your questions, but we're there to hear your input as well. And so, if you can't make them, please reach out to us, email us, call us, let us know. We have full-time staff while we're part-time legislators. We do have people that are full-time to work on issues and make sure that your voice is heard.
Senator, thanks very much for your time. Join us again next time on Face to Face.